You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers! Travel beyond the boundaries of time and memory. Susan Sizer Bogue's Deep Time takes us on a profound journey through love, loss, and the mysteries that shape who we are. Put your hands together and welcome Susan to the show. Thank you so much, Susan, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where in just a few minutes we are going to discuss your book, Deep Time. Until then, though, let's toast to a fantastic show. And I am not going to even tell you what's in this glass, but because it's still too early for it. But
especially here, not there.
And what do you have in your glass? That's a beautiful glass.
I have lemonade because it's still in the morning here.
Yes. So this, we'll say it's ginger ale, although I am completely lying. But cheers.
Cheers.
Mhm.
Oh, a drink.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about Deep Time and what we as the readers should expect from having read it.
It is a book that includes, as the climax, a volcanic eruption, which is pretty exciting to have that as the climax of your book. But it doesn't occur right away. It's at the climax of at the climax of the story. And it's mostly a story of a 22-year-old woman who graduates from college and she has no career. She just took classes that she enjoyed. She didn't figure out a career. So she is only qualified to be a waitress. But she and her new husband go on a raft trip down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon, and she is astounded by the beauty of the Grand Canyon and all of the mysterious layers of rock that represent different eras of our time. And that's where time comes into it. Geologists work in deep time, which is millions or billions of years ago, figuring out what the Earth is doing and what it has done in the past.
I loved, while reading the book, I felt like I was actually in those places. So kudos to you for doing such a fantastic job of making the setting a character in and of itself, right? Like I know the conversations are taking place and the plot line is taking place, but I absolutely felt like I had been transported into the places of the book. When you were crafting the story itself, was it always intended that it would be set at the Grand Canyon, or were there other places in mind that you had before the final book came?
It was not planned that it starred in the Grand Canyon, but I just figured out that that would be a wonderful place. I have taken the raft trip through the Grand Canyon myself, so it's a spectacular trip, and it's inspiring enough to make someone want to be a geologist.
Nice. Now, when you took the trip, were you anticipating that your experience would become part of a book, or did that part just come later?
That came later. I had no idea about writing a book when I took that trip.
Talk to us about the process that you use when you are developing your characters. You mentioned earlier that sometimes there are aspects of people that you know. Is it something that you hear as you're going about your everyday life that something's like, I'm going to use that later? Or do you fully form your characters from the very beginning?
No, I think that I hear things and I hear people use interesting expressions, and I think, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm going to include that. And I would say that's true of various characteristics of the people too, besides their speech or the way they talk.
Have you ever set a book in a location that you've not yet traveled, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go there because it's written in such a way that I now want to be there?
I have not. This is my actually my first book. I've written lots of humorous essays, and I wrote the script for a musical that my friend wrote the music for. But I have never. This is my first novel, and my husband and I are leaving on May 6th to go to Mount St. Helens for the third time for me, because it's become kind of a inspiration or a spirit mountain to me.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to see Mount St. Helens for the third time.
Now, this time is very special, though. It's not just any ordinary time for Mount St. Helen. Tell us a little bit about what's going on this time.
Well, 45 years ago, about this time, there were strange things happening at Mount St. Helens. There were little earthquakes, series of little earthquakes. There would be, oh, spouts or even small eruptions of steam and ash. And there was ground shaking that kind of indicated that magma, the liquid interior of our uh, earth, was moving under the mountain. So there were very definite signs that the mountain was awake. And tourists and geologists were thrilled. They headed right to Mount St. Helens. The road to Mount St. Helens was often lined with cars, people wanting to see an eruption, and they would bring their picnic lunch and their cooler of beer, and they would line the roads and wait for something to happen from the mountain. And there was a vendor that was even selling T-shirts that read Mount St. Helens Ski Team. So people were really into it. Geologists were excited about it. They flocked to Washington also. It's unusual to get to see a volcanic eruption. In fact, the last one in the US was in 1915. It was Lassen Peak in California. And then in 1980, we had the Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, I have not seen any of them on mainland USA. I was in Hawaii for 8 years and had the awesome opportunity to see Mount Kilauea, which is fascinating in and of itself. So I can absolutely see why people flock to it. Let's talk about Lauren a little bit. She is young. She's finding herself. She's in this marriage. She is in one place when the story opens, and through finding her true self in terms of her mission, her power, her purpose, she evolves even further. Talk to us about that process for her and why it was important for this character to experience this evolution at a very young part of her life.
I agree that it was at a very young part of her life. She had kind of an unusual upbringing in that her mother was kind of a weak character, and her grandmother was a domineering character, and so she was not as strong a character as she could have been if she had perhaps better upbringing. But her confidence grew as her knowledge of geology grew. And once she had completed her field work in Oregon, where she hiked canyons and collected rock samples, she was a different person. She had completed something that was so difficult, as we can all imagine, climbing canyons and hauling pieces of rocks or knocking off pieces of rocks and then putting them in your backpack and keep on going up the canyon is a pretty hard field work. But she was quite enthralled by the fact that she made it. Because when her first few days there, she didn't think she would make it.
Yeah.
such a hard job.
What was it like for you creating the character to go through physical labor type situations to find herself versus some of the more, I don't want to sound sexist, but some of the more girly type, you know, careers that she could have chosen, and speak to the importance of crossing those gender lines in terms of occupations and the strength that was gained for Lauren for that.
Oh, that's a really good question. She did not, when she considered becoming a geologist, she didn't even question whether it was a male or female job. It was just what she wanted to do, and she very much wanted to succeed at it. And I think that it became irrelevant as to after her initial struggles with the men in the
Yes.
geology department. I think it kind of became irrelevant that she was a woman and that she was able to succeed in a really hard field work and difficult mental strain too. It a lot of math is required for geology. I certainly could not become a geologist because of the math. She succeeded and she grew and she became herself.
How much of Susan was put into the character of Lauren in terms of relationships, tenacity, her grit, and her unflappable resolve once she sank her teeth into what she's going to do?
Oh, I do not think much of myself got in there at all. Perhaps my sense of humor, and there are some humorous parts. I love to write humor. This was a humorous but very serious book also,
Mhm.
and very much a read of a person's growth. And so I would have to say that very little of myself got in here, but people might disagree. They say, "Gee, that sounds just like Susan or Nana or something."
Who's your biggest fan?
I would have to say my daughter is my biggest fan right now. She is helping me with social media that
Uh-huh.
I tried not to get involved in, but I was told that it's important to put yourself out there and connect with people and connect with readers, and it's so important. And my daughter has been helping me with that, and she has to be my biggest fan or my best fan right now.
Oh, what's something that people will be surprised to know that you can't do that they would assume comes easy to Susan?
I can't sit down and write beautiful sentences immediately. I have to edit. And I have to get the words in the correct order so that they have the most punch. If you don't get your syntax right, which I guess that's what it's called, you do not have the punch in your writing and it doesn't resonate with readers. So I have to edit and re-edit. And I don't know if that's unusual or it's just but even for a humorous article, you would think you could just write those out and send them off, but I have to edit.
Yeah, yeah, that's something to know. You've written the script for your musical, and that's the Christmas of the Phonograph Record. Is that correct?
Yes.
How does writing for the stage compare or assist in writing a novel?
The stage, the conversations that occur between two actors on the stage have to make their relationship change after that conversation. And in
Ooh.
a novel, you have more chances to develop the relationship between characters. But on the stage, it's shorter. It's probably only 75 pages as opposed to 300 pages for a novel or more. And you have to, each each interaction of characters has to count on the stage. Or people will think it's just, well, how are you today? Oh, I'm fine. That's pretty boring. But it's also boring in a novel. But
It
you still have more time to develop your characters' interactions in a novel.
was it more difficult going from the script writing to the novel, adding on words, or would it have been more difficult going from having the real estate of more words in the novel and then having to reduce them for the script?
I think it's harder to go from a script to a novel. I was always worried about filling up the
Yeah.
words. And that's not the way that you do it, because then I realized later I had to edit out a lot of the things that I was padding it with. Um, Readers don't want to read padding.
Bluff, right?
So, I think it's easier to start smaller and move bigger.
Talk to us. We just talked a little bit about the you're adding humor in. How important is humor, especially when you're creating stories where your characters are having these coming of age, coming of life moments. Talk to us about the importance of threading humor in that storyline.
Why, I think readers appreciate any lightness that you can add into a serious novel. And I think life is not all that serious most of the time. Usually you can find some humor in your life or in your interactions. And I think that readers have to have some humor.
Yeah, it kind of helps. It's not a padding, it's actually a sprinkling effect to it.
One writer who gives advice to writers is says that you have to leave gold coins for the readers sprinkled throughout the novel. And
Oh,
that might be bits of humor or bits of lightness or bits of very profound thoughts, but gold coins or um, bits of lightness are really important.
oh, I like that. I like that idea. Kind of like a little Willy Wonka with the golden ticket throughout. I like that.
Yes, we all must be rewarded.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to have to remind myself to put up some little gold coins and sprinkle them throughout the story.
I,
Lastly, life in Denver. Living in the Denver area, there's just a lot of local landscapes and culture that was infused in deep time. Why was that so important to have those elements in there? And talk to us about the experience of taking what you see every day and putting it in a book so that those of us who are more city bound, well, I'm kind of country, a little bit country, I'm a small town bound, but to bring such a beautiful landscape to us through your words.
I have to admit that I'm an outdoor person. If I don't get out every day, I can get down or dull, I guess you might say. But so I'm an outdoor person, and I think geologists as a whole, that's one thing I have in common with them, is they are outdoor people. Sometimes the geology associations that do lobbying in Washington, they have a hard time filling that job. Nobody wants to spend their time, talking to people and have no beautiful outdoors to go
Yeah,
to at the moment when they're lobbying and schmoozing and everything like such as that. So I feel very close to the feelings that geologists have about the outdoors.
nice. And again, it shows because just from the minute that you start reading, you're surrounded by these elements and the sights and the sounds and the beauty of space. What's next for you, Susan? I know that we are just coming up on the release of Deep Time, but what do you have going on um, following the fanfare and the ticket parade of your release of Deep Time?
I am writing a Substack column every Wednesday, and that's very enjoyable to me because it makes me laugh when I think of funny thoughts. So I'm kind of entertaining myself as well as sending it out on Substack. And I think I'll probably do that for a while since I undertook to do it. I like to stick with what I promised that I would do. So I'm sending out a Substack every Wednesday morning.
Oh, nice. Question that I wanted to ask earlier and jumped right in. I tell you it's because of whatever is in this glass that I will never confess to. Was there a different title other than Deep Time? And very crafty you did because Deep Time was mentioned multiple times before you understood where it was connected to. I was like, aha, I see what you did there, Susan.
Yes, for a long time I was going to name it Mount St. Helens, a novel, and I thought that was pretty dull. And I think everybody else thought that was pretty dull too. So I finally came up with Deep Time.
I love that. And I'm going to put your information in where people are able to follow you and to connect with you, your website and such. And I know that your daughter is working with you on getting you more visible on the social media aspect. So, is there a question that you've never yet been asked that you would love to be asked so that you can answer it?
Oh my goodness, that's a difficult question that I would like to be asked. I would like to be asked where my sense of humor came from.
Oh, great question. Go ahead and answer that. I like that question.
Both of my parents were had great senses of humor and enjoyed talking and socializing, not necessarily with other adults, but they were very good parents and they were very good natured and they came from large families. And I think that humor is a part of our family and it keeps my siblings and myself happy and together. So I love humor.
Now, did your children adapt that sense of humor as well? Or are they just like, Mom, come on, enough?
They're kind of like that. They're they're kind of getting over that stage.
Well, you
They
have multiple grandbabies that you can pass that trait on to and let them take it back to their homes and get
Yeah,
on their parents' nerves.
I think humor is so important for surviving in life.
It really is. It really is. Now, we've come to the part of our show that I call Last Call. It's a few rapid fire questions that are designed just to have fun, no deep thought. You can say pass, okay? Because listen, I have not pre-read this, so we get what we get and we don't throw a fit, okay?
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I cannot sing a word on tune, not a single note on tune. And so I do not have a go-to karaoke.
I can't sing on tune either, but it does not stop me from doing it. I think I just look like I should be able to sing.
Oh, that's funny.
I bug everyone. I tell my husband, scripture says make a joyful noise. So it's a noise and I'm joyful. Would you rather have a rewind or pause button for life or neither?
I would rather not have either. I love all of my experiences in the past, and they enrich me all the time, even though they happened a long time ago or just 2 weeks ago. I am enriched by everything I've seen and everything I've experienced and all the people I've met. I love where I am now.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's just something beautiful about being over 60 uh, that allows just to be able to look at life and just be so appreciative. It doesn't matter the roads that you traveled to get there, it's the fact that you're here, right? Just to experience that here.
Absolutely.
What food do you irrationally hate?
Which food?
Yes.
Irrationally hate. Let's see, what do I hate? I have to think it's kale, even though
Yeah.
it's so good for you. It reminds me of eating a sagebrush or a tumbleweed.
Yeah.
It's just kind of harsh on your mouth. I don't know.
Yeah. And mine, believe it or not, is avocado. And I have tried so many different ways. It's that texture of it that's just like, I
Oh my
can't do
God.
it. And I'm so dramatic when I find it in something like legit. I become a 2 year old Susan. I mean, the whole,
Well, that's funny because most people are crave avocado, and we're very fearful of the price going up because of the tariffs
yes,
on
you can
Mexico.
have my avocados, let me tell you. Last one. What's the first concert you ever attended?
First concert. I was very lucky in grade school. One of my friends was an only child, and her parents were a little bit older, and they wanted a companion for her. So they bought us symphony tickets.
Oh,
And we got to go to the symphony. And I'm not sure I probably wanted to go to the symphony back then. It's started my appreciation for music. And I was very lucky to have symphony tickets at age 8 or whatever, age 9,
oh.
whatever that was. Because my parents did not take us to concerts or buy concert tickets for us.
See, you were a great companion.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you, Susan. This has been so much fun.
Oh, thank you. I knew that I would enjoy talking to you.
Yay. Oh, and this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.